The quiet fury of humanity. The Galactic Council Chamber was an architectural marvel, a gleaming dome of iridescent materials that shimmered with the light of countless stars. Every race in the galaxy sent their finest to sit here, believing their words carried the weight of entire civilizations. On this day, as diplomats and dignitaries gathered, they had no idea they were standing at the precipice of an event that would rewrite galactic history. In the corner of the chamber, Earth's representative stood alone. Ambassador Elena Torres was not an imposing figure. Her frame was small compared to the towering, multi-limbed forms of the Xilari, or the luminous, jellyfish-like Centaurans. But there was a quiet intensity about her, a sense of restrained power that unnerved those who paid attention. For decades, the humans had been quiet, polite, and accommodating, a species of surprising ingenuity tempered by what appeared to be endless patience. The Council, as it often did, misread the humans. The meeting that sparked a revolution. Ambassador Torres, the High Chancellor, intoned, his voice a harmonious blend of artificial and organic tones, amplified to fill the chamber. It has come to our attention that your people have begun unauthorized colonization efforts in the Persei cluster. This violates the restrictions agreed upon by your species. Effective immediately, all human activities in this region must cease. The words echoed, followed by a murmur of approval from the assembled council members. Torres did not react immediately. She stood still, her hands clasped behind her back, her expression unreadable. The silence stretched until it grew uncomfortable. Finally, she spoke. "Honorable Chancellor," she said, her voice measured and calm, "my people have respected every restriction placed upon us, even when those restrictions hindered our survival. We have complied with every decree, even when it cost us dearly. But this," she paused, letting the weight of her words settle, "this is not a restriction, it is an act of aggression." The chamber erupted into murmurs. Aggression. Humans were not known for such bold accusations. They were supposed to be pliant, grateful for their place among the stars. The High Chancellor's pale, reflective face darkened with irritation. "Ambassador," he said, his voice dripping with condescension, "surely you understand that these measures are for the stability of the galaxy. Your rapid expansion into the Persei cluster has made other species uneasy." Elena's lips curved into a faint smile, but her eyes remained cold. "Uneasy," she repeated, her voice like steel wrapped in velvet. "Uneasy as the Xilari strip mine entire planets. Uneasy as the Centaurans terraform systems without regard for the indigenous life they destroy. Uneasy as the Rahl devour stars themselves for energy. But humanity, building a few colonies in barren systems, is the threat to stability." The murmurs grew louder, tinged now with unease of their own. No one had ever heard a human speak like this in the council chambers. The final warning. "Elena," the High Chancellor snapped, dropping formalities, "your kind has always been passionate, but passion without wisdom leads to chaos. Do not mistake your species' survival instincts for a license to defy the order we have built over millennia." The ambassador stepped forward, her shadow stretching across the polished floor. "Order," she said, her voice rising just enough to demand attention. "You mean control. Control over who gets to thrive and who remains in chains. You call us primitive because we lack your centuries of technology, but let me remind you of one truth." She placed a small device on the table before her, a crystal etched with shimmering lines of human craftsmanship. It was a record of Earth's history, distilled into a single artifact. Study this, and you will see what your order has overlooked. Humanity's greatest strength is not its technology. It is not our intelligence or even our resilience. It is our capacity to endure, to wait, to watch, and to act when the time is right. The council chamber was utterly silent now. No one dared to interrupt. Even the High Chancellor seemed at a loss for words. Elena's tone hardened. "For decades, we have smiled through your condescension. We have complied with your restrictions, knowing they were designed to weaken us. We have waited. But I warn you now, as one representative to another. Humanity's patience is not infinite. Do not mistake our politeness for submission. The unmistakable shift. The council dismissed the meeting with an air of superiority, but unease lingered. For the first time in recorded history, a human had not simply accepted the council's decree. Worse still, they had issued a warning. It was a moment that passed unnoticed by most, but to those who were paying attention, it was the sound of a crack in the dam. Back on Earth, the message spread quickly. The people had grown weary of being the galaxy's errand runners. The species expected to accept every slight with a smile. The spark lit by Elena Torres ignited a flame of quiet rebellion. Engineers worked tirelessly to build ships capable of defying the Council's patrols. Scientists developed technologies that blurred the line between possible and impossible. And ordinary citizens, from farmers to factory workers, poured their resources into a single cause, ensuring that humanity would never be underestimated again. The calm before the storm. As the weeks turned into months, the Council noticed subtle changes. Human colonies began to grow at an unprecedented rate, their ships slipping past blockades with an almost supernatural precision. Diplomatic envoys from Earth spoke with a new confidence, their smiles still present but now sharper, more deliberate. In the depths of space, unseen by the Council's prying eyes, humanity was preparing. They had always been a species of contradictions, kind yet ruthless, curious yet guarded. And now, they were united in a way the galaxy had never seen before. The Council, in their arrogance, believed they still held control. They saw the humans' actions as mere posturing, the last flails of a primitive species desperate to cling to relevance. But those who knew humanity better, the traitors, the mercenaries, the few allies they had made, understood the truth. The humans were not preparing for war. They were preparing for freedom. And when that day came, the galaxy would remember it forever. The silent build-up. The council chambers had returned to their usual bustle of self-importance and politicking, but something lingered in the air, a faint tension that even the most oblivious delegates could not ignore. It was the shadow of humanity's warning, a subtle shift in the balance of power that left many uneasy, though none dared voice it openly. Meanwhile, on Earth, that warning echoed across continents, resonating with people from every walk of life. Elena Torres' defiance had not merely been a political act. It was a call to arms for a species tired of being treated as lesser. On Earth and its scattered colonies, a transformation was underway, not marked by fiery speeches or dramatic rebellions, but by something far more profound: quiet, determined preparation. Seeds of defiance. Deep beneath the frozen tundras of Europa, one of humanity's most secretive facilities hummed with activity. The New Dawn Initiative, a coalition of Earth's brightest minds, had been quietly gathering strength for years. Scientists, engineers, and strategists, many of them once rejected by the Galactic Council's elite academies, now worked tirelessly in subterranean labs, shielded from prying eyes by layers of ice and cutting-edge cloaking technology. Their mission was simple but audacious: to ensure humanity's survival and autonomy. To the Council, humanity's technological advances seemed quaint, barely scratching the surface of what older civilizations had achieved. But what the Council failed to grasp was the sheer ingenuity and adaptability that defined the human spirit. Among the initiative's many projects was the development of a new generation of starships, vessels designed not merely to explore but to defend. These ships were sleek, compact, and bristling with innovative technologies. Unlike the towering dreadnoughts of the Zenith Collective or the organic fleets of the Centaurans, human ships were a testament to practicality and clever engineering. Every piece of metal, every circuit, every system served a purpose. Unity in the shadows. While the New Dawn Initiative worked in secret, Earth itself underwent a transformation of its own. Old rivalries between nations faded, replaced by an unprecedented sense of unity. Humanity's survival, they realized, depended on their ability to act as one. Factories that once churned out commercial goods were repurposed to manufacture starship components. Universities shifted their focus to advanced physics, cybernetics, and adaptive AI systems. Farmers and tradespeople contributed in their own ways, feeding the growing workforce and keeping the fragile economy afloat. In the colonies, the change was just as profound. On Mars, miners who had long struggled under the weight of council-imposed restrictions now worked with renewed vigor, extracting the rare materials needed to fuel humanity's expansion. On Titan, researchers developed energy sources that could power entire fleets. The Persei cluster, the Council's latest forbidden zone, became a rallying cry for colonists eager to prove their resilience. And through it all, the humans did what they did best. They adapted. The Council's blind spot. Back on Celestera Prime, the Council remained largely oblivious to humanity's quiet defiance. Their focus was on larger threats, territorial disputes between the Raal and the Zenith Collective, rumors of Centauran High ships near the galactic core, and the ever-present question of resource scarcity. To them, humanity was a minor inconvenience at best, a species that would eventually fall in line as all others had. Their reports on human activity painted a picture of a species obediently complying with restrictions, albeit with some grumbling. They interpreted the lack of open rebellion as a sign of submission. But there were whispers. Traders and mercenaries returning from human territories spoke of strange developments. They told tales of bustling shipyards and colonies that seemed to grow overnight. They described human ships that moved with uncanny precision, evading patrols with ease. The Council dismissed these reports as exaggerations, the products of overactive imaginations. After all, how could a species barely a few centuries into space travel pose a threat to civilizations that had ruled the stars for millennia? The smiling mask. Elena Torres returned to Earth a hero, though she took no time to bask in her newfound fame. Instead, she worked tirelessly behind the scenes, coordinating with the New Dawn Initiative and rallying support among the colonies. Her calm, unyielding demeanor became a symbol of humanity's resolve. In every speech, every meeting, every interaction, she carried herself with the same quiet strength that had unnerved the Council. And always, there was the smile, that enigmatic, deliberate expression that had come to represent the silent warning humanity had issued to the galaxy. When questioned by journalists about the Council's latest restrictions, Torres responded with measured diplomacy. "We respect the Council's decisions," she said, her smile never wavering. "But humanity has always found a way to adapt. We will continue to thrive, as we always have." To the untrained ear, her words were innocuous, even conciliatory. But to those who knew her, they were a declaration of intent. A new frontier. The Persei cluster became a focal point for humanity's ambitions. Officially, they complied with the Council's ban, halting all unauthorized colonization efforts. Unofficially, they pushed deeper into the cluster than ever before, establishing hidden outposts and resource hubs. These colonies operated in near-total secrecy, their existence known only to a select few. Supplies were ferried in by stealth ships, their movements concealed by advanced cloaking technology. The colonists lived under constant threat of discovery, yet their spirits remained unbroken. They understood the stakes. Every structure they built, every resource they harvested, was a step toward ensuring humanity's future. On one such colony, a young engineer named Kieran O'Hara stood atop a rocky outcrop, gazing out at the horizon. The twin suns of the Persei cluster cast an otherworldly glow over the barren landscape, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Around him, his fellow colonists worked tirelessly, assembling the infrastructure needed to sustain their settlement. "This is just the beginning," Kieran said, his voice filled with quiet determination. "One day, they'll look back at this place and realize it's where everything changed." The calm before the storm. For now, humanity's defiance remained hidden, their actions concealed behind a facade of compliance. But beneath the surface, a storm was brewing. The Council's dismissive arrogance, their failure to recognize the warning signs, only fueled humanity's resolve. They were no longer content to merely survive. They were building something greater, a future in which they would no longer be subject to the whims of a distant, indifferent council, a future in which humanity would stand tall among the stars, not as subordinates but as equals. And when the time came to reveal their strength, the galaxy would finally understand the true meaning of those enigmatic human smiles. For now, they prepared, quietly, patiently, relentlessly. Shadows in the void. The stars were silent witnesses to humanity's transformation, hidden among their brilliance, far from the prying eyes of the Galactic Council. Humanity's quiet revolution continued. While the Council debated trade agreements and territorial disputes, humans worked tirelessly in the shadows, building what would become their greatest gamble, an interstellar network of ingenuity, resolve, and defiance. This was no ordinary rebellion. It wasn't marked by bold proclamations or fiery uprisings. Instead, it was a rebellion of subtlety, of calculated risks and deliberate action. The galaxy would come to know it as the Shadow War, though in truth, it was much more than that. It was humanity's declaration of independence, one whispered in the void before it roared across the stars. The whispers begin. In the cold depths of space, an unmarked human ship drifted, its sleek design blending seamlessly with the blackness around it. The Erebus, as it was called, was humanity's newest creation, a stealth reconnaissance vessel equipped with experimental cloaking technology. It was undetectable by even the most advanced sensors, a feat that had baffled and frustrated the Council's patrols. Captain Leela Graves stood on the bridge, her sharp eyes scanning the holographic display before her. The Erebus was deep in Council-controlled space, monitoring the activities of the Zenith Collective, one of the Council's most powerful allies. The Collective's fleet of massive planet-cracking ships had been a constant threat to humanity's colonies, their movements always cloaked in mystery. "What do we have, Marcus?" Leela asked, her voice low but commanding. The ship's intelligence officer, a wiry man with an ever-present smirk, pointed to the display. "Looks like they're moving resources into the Persei cluster. That's 3 convoys in the last month. If I had to guess, they're planning to expand into the same systems the Council just banned us from." Leela's jaw tightened. It was the same pattern they'd seen before. Resources stripped from planets deemed off-limits to humans, funneled into the hands of the galaxy's most powerful factions. But this time, humanity had a chance to act. "Send the data back to HQ," she ordered, "and prepare the crew. We're not letting this convoy slip past us." A strike in the dark. The ambush was swift and precise, a testament to humanity's growing mastery of guerrilla tactics in space. As the Zenith convoy moved through an uncharted system, the Erebus and its accompanying ships struck from the shadows, disabling the lead vessel before the rest of the fleet could react. "Targets neutralize," Marcus reported, his voice tinged with satisfaction. "We've got the cargo, Captain. All high-grade materials, just what the colonies need." Leela nodded, her gaze fixed on the viewport. The victory was significant, but it was only a small piece of a much larger puzzle. Humanity's actions would not go unnoticed, and retaliation was inevitable. But for now, the colonies would have the resources they needed to keep building, to keep surviving. "Good work, everyone," she said. "Let's get out of here before the Council starts asking questions." The spark of unity. Back on Earth, the data retrieved from the Erebus fueled the fire that was already burning bright. The Zenith Collective's activities in the Persei cluster confirmed what many had suspected. The Council's restrictions on humanity were not about stability. They were about control. Elena Torres, now the de facto leader of humanity's growing resistance, addressed a gathering of representatives from Earth and its colonies. The meeting was held in a concealed bunker beneath the Martian surface, its location known only to a trusted few. "They think we're too weak to fight back," Elena said, her voice steady but passionate. "They think we'll bow our heads and accept whatever scraps they throw our way. But what they don't understand is that we're not just fighting for survival. We're fighting for our future. For our freedom. The room erupted in applause, the sound echoing off the metal walls. Among those present were scientists, engineers, military strategists, and ordinary citizens who had volunteered to join the cause. Each of them carried the weight of humanity's collective determination, their efforts woven together into a tapestry of resilience. Building the network. One of the most ambitious projects of the resistance was the creation of a covert communication network that spanned the galaxy. Dubbed the Ethernet, it used quantum entanglement to transmit data instantaneously, bypassing the Council's heavily monitored communication channels. It was a marvel of human ingenuity, built by a team of rogue scientists who had once worked for the Council's research division. With the Ethernet in place, humanity's colonies could coordinate their efforts with unprecedented efficiency. Supplies and information flowed seamlessly, allowing the resistance to stay one step ahead of the Council's patrols. It was a game-changer, a silent weapon in the Shadow War, an unexpected ally. As humanity's defiance grew, whispers of their actions began to spread beyond their own territories. Among the galaxy's many species, there were those who had suffered under the Council's rule, minor races whose voices had been silenced, whose worlds had been exploited. One such race was the Drelkath, a reptilian species known for their exceptional skill in metallurgy. Once a proud civilization, they had been reduced to little more than slaves, forced to provide resources for the Council's war machines. When a small human delegation approached the Drelkath on their homeworld, they were met with suspicion. But as the humans spoke of their struggle, of their fight for freedom, something shifted. The Drelkath saw in humanity a kindred spirit, a spark of defiance that mirrored their own buried desires. "We will help you," their leader said, his voice a low growl. "But know this, if you fail, we will all suffer the Council's wrath." Elena Torres, who had led the delegation herself, met his gaze with unflinching resolve. "We won't fail," she said. "Together, we'll show them what happens when the underestimated fight back." The edge of revolution. As alliances formed and humanity's preparations accelerated, the Council remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing on the horizon. To them, humanity was still the polite, submissive species they had always known, a species that smiled and adapted, never daring to push back. But in the shadows, the truth was undeniable. Humanity was no longer merely surviving. They were rising, their strength growing with each passing day. And when the time came to reveal themselves, the galaxy would finally understand the depths of human ingenuity, resilience, and determination. For now, they remained hidden, their actions cloaked in secrecy. But the day was coming when the shadows would no longer be enough. The day of reckoning was on the horizon, and humanity was ready. The echoes of defiance. The galaxy spun on, oblivious to the crescendo of rebellion rising in its quieter corners. On Earth, in the colonies, and in the uncharted systems humans now called home, every action, every whispered conversation, every hidden outpost was a calculated step toward the inevitable. While the Galactic Council basked in its perceived control, humanity prepared to unleash a force that would shake the very foundations of the galaxy. This was not a war of conquest. It was a fight for dignity, survival, and the right to exist as equals. And though the Council remained blind to the storm brewing, their allies were beginning to sense the ripples. An unexpected shift. The Council's arrogance began to erode when fragments of intelligence painted an unsettling picture. Reports of missing convoys, mysterious disappearances, and untraceable sabotage filtered in from the Persei cluster. The Zenith Collective, once considered an untouchable powerhouse, had suffered losses in resources and influence that could no longer be ignored. At a council meeting on Celestera Prime, High Chancellor Aurelian, a towering crystalline figure whose voice resonated like chimes in a breeze, addressed the growing unease. "We face disruptions that threaten our stability," Aurelian intoned, his gaze sweeping the assembled dignitaries. "Our resources are being compromised. Trade routes are no longer secure. And yet, the perpetrators remain in the shadows. As murmurs filled the chamber, one voice cut through the noise. Ambassador Freelat of the Varian Empire, a stout and pragmatic figure, leaned forward, his mandibles clicking in agitation. "It is the humans," he said bluntly. "I warned you that granting them any semblance of autonomy was a mistake. They have no respect for the Council's authority." Others in the chamber murmured their agreement, though some hesitated. The humans had always seemed so compliant. Could they truly be the source of such disruption? The debate continued, but Aurelian raised a hand, silencing the room. "Let us not leap to conclusions," he said. "We will investigate these disturbances. If the humans are involved, they will be dealt with accordingly." It was a promise, but it came too late. Humanity's plans were already in motion, and no investigation would stop what was coming. The rising tide. On a moon orbiting a gas giant in the Persei cluster, a group of human engineers stood around a table laden with blueprints and holographic displays. The room was dimly lit, its walls lined with equipment salvaged from raids on Zenith convoys. This was Echo Base, one of humanity's most critical installations, a hub for designing and producing technologies that would level the playing field. At the head of the table stood Dr. Yara Fields, a physicist whose brilliance was matched only by her tenacity. She pointed to a schematic of a weaponized orbital platform, its design unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. "This," she said, her voice firm, "is the key to protecting our colonies. If we can deploy these platforms along key trade routes, we'll have the leverage we need to control access to the Persei cluster." One of her assistants, a wiry young man named Devon, raised a hand. "But won't that provoke the Council? They'll see it as an act of war." Yara's gaze hardened. "Devon, the Council has been at war with us since the day they decided we were too dangerous to be free. The only difference now is that we're fighting back." The room fell silent, the weight of her words sinking in. They all knew the risks. Every weapon they built, every raid they conducted, brought them closer to open conflict, but it also brought them closer to freedom. An alliance forged in desperation. In another corner of the galaxy, the Linators met with the Drelkath once more. The reptilian species had proven invaluable allies, their mastery of metallurgy enabling the production of weapons and ships far beyond what humanity could achieve alone. But the alliance was not without its challenges. "We cannot afford to be seen aiding you," said Ralshak, the Drelkath leader, his scales glinting in the dim light of their subterranean meeting chamber. "If the Council discovers our involvement, they will obliterate us." The Lina nodded. "We understand the risks, Ralshak. But if we succeed, your people will no longer have to live in fear. We're not just fighting for humanity. We're fighting for everyone who's been oppressed by the Council's rule." Ralshak regarded her for a long moment, his yellow eyes unblinking. Finally, he spoke. "Very well. We will continue to support your efforts. But know this. If you falter, there will be no second chance." Alina's smile was faint but resolute. "We won't falter." The first spark. The turning point came in the form of a seemingly minor event, a routine inspection of a cargo vessel in the outer systems. A Council patrol ship intercepted the freighter, its scanners detecting unauthorized modifications. When the patrol boarded the vessel, they found it deserted, its crew seemingly vanished. But hidden in the ship's holds was something far more valuable, a cache of human-designed quantum disruptors, devices capable of disabling the advanced systems of Council ships. The discovery sent shockwaves through the Council, confirming what some had already suspected. Humanity was no longer content to follow their rules. The patrol ship's captain, a grizzled veteran named Vrintholos, reported the incident to the Council with a mix of frustration and unease. "They're out there," he said, his voice crackling over the comm. "They're hiding in the shadows, watching us. And they're getting stronger. The galaxy takes notice." The Council's response was swift. Patrols were doubled, and restrictions on human activities were tightened even further. But these measures only pushed humanity deeper into the shadows, where their defiance grew bolder with each passing day. Meanwhile, whispers of the humans' actions spread among the galaxy's lesser species. To some, they were a beacon of hope, a reminder that even the mightiest empires could be challenged. To others, they were a warning. If the Council could not control humanity, what hope did anyone else have? But for humanity, these whispers were validation. They were no longer a species defined by polite smiles and quiet compliance. They were a force to be reckoned with, a spark that threatened to ignite a firestorm across the stars. And though the galaxy did not yet know it, the echoes of humanity's defiance were only the beginning. The catalyst of change. The galaxy was beginning to shift in ways even the Galactic Council could not ignore. What had once been dismissed as minor disruptions and isolated incidents now loomed as a shadow over their carefully curated order. The humans, once thought of as naive newcomers, were becoming something more, something unpredictable. And unpredictability was a threat the Council could not afford. Far from the gleaming towers of Celestera Prime, on the edges of the Persei cluster, humanity's preparations accelerated. Every move they made was deliberate, every step part of a larger strategy. The time for silence was nearing its end, and the galaxy would soon witness the truth of what humanity had become. The Battle of Althera Drift. It began in an unremarkable system on the fringes of the Persei cluster, where a Zenith collective fleet had established a temporary resource station. The station, orbiting a barren moon, was protected by a dozen heavily armed ships. To the Council, it was an impregnable stronghold, a symbol of their dominance. To humanity, it was an opportunity. Captain Leela Graves, now a seasoned leader in humanity's resistance, stood on the bridge of the Erebus II, a more advanced version of the stealth vessel that had begun her journey. Around her, a fleet of human ships, sleek, nimble, and bristling with ingenuity, waited in the silent void. "We've identified their weak points," said Marcus, her intelligence officer, his tone calm but eager. "Their sensor arrays are optimized for large-scale fleet movements. They'll never see us coming." Leela's gaze was steady as she surveyed the holographic map. The plan was risky, but it was their best chance to send a message. "Engage the cloaks," she ordered. "We're not here to fight their fleet. We're here to dismantle their confidence." As the human fleet approached the station, their ships disappeared from view, rendered invisible by experimental cloaking technology. The Zenith ships, their systems tuned to detect traditional threats, remained unaware until it was too late. The attack was surgical. The human ships struck with precision, disabling the station's power core and severing its communication lines before the Zenith fleet could organize a response. By the time reinforcements arrived, the station was nothing more than a smoldering wreck, its resources scattered and useless. It was a victory that reverberated far beyond the Persei cluster. For the first time, humanity had openly defied the Council's most powerful ally, and won. The Council reacts. On Celestera Prime, the mood in the Council chambers was tense. High Chancellor Aurelian, his crystalline form dim with frustration, addressed the assembly. "The attack on Althera Drift cannot be ignored," he said, his voice resonating with barely contained anger. "The humans have crossed a line. We must respond decisively, or risk emboldening others." Ambassador Freelat of the Varian Empire, always eager to fan the flames, leaned forward. "They've declared war on us, Chancellor. We must eradicate them before their rebellion spreads." Not all members of the Council were so quick to agree. Ambassador Tilani of the Solvari, a species known for their pragmatism, raised a hand. "War with the humans will cost us dearly," she said. "They are resourceful, and their allies are growing. Perhaps it is time to reconsider our approach." Freelat scoffed. "Reconsider? They are a Deathworld species, bred for conflict. There is no reasoning with them." The debate raged on, but one thing was clear. The Council could no longer ignore humanity. Whether through diplomacy or force, they would have to confront the rising threat. Forging new alliances. Humanity's victory at Althera Drift did not go unnoticed. Across the galaxy, other species began to take note of the humans' defiance. To some, they were an inspiration. To others, a dangerous wild card. For the Drelkath, they were proof that the Council's grip was not as unbreakable as it seemed. On their homeworld, Relshak convened a secret meeting of his advisors. "The humans have shown us what is possible," he said, "but their success will draw the Council's wrath. If we do not act now, we may lose our chance to break free." One of his advisors, a younger Drelkath named Yixar, hesitated. "Aligning with the humans is a risk. If they fail, the Council will crush us." Relshak's gaze was unyielding. "And if they succeed, we gain our freedom. The time for caution has passed." The decision was made. The Drelkath began funneling more resources to the humans, providing them with advanced alloys and technologies that even the Council would struggle to counter. It was a gamble, but one they believed was worth taking. The turning point. On Earth, Elena Torres and her allies worked tirelessly to capitalize on their momentum. In a secure bunker deep beneath the Martian surface, she addressed a gathering of humanity's leaders and strategists. "The Council will retaliate," she said. "Althera Drift was just the beginning. They'll try to crush us before we gain more ground. We need to be ready." One of the engineers, a grizzled veteran named Jacob, stepped forward. "We've made progress on the orbital platforms," he said. "They're not fully operational yet, but we can deploy prototypes within weeks." Elena nodded. "Do it. We need every advantage we can get." As the meeting continued, a sense of urgency filled the room. The humans knew they were racing against time, but they also knew they were no longer alone. Their allies were growing, and their resolve was unshakable. The rising storm. In the weeks that followed, humanity's efforts intensified. New ships rolled out of hidden shipyards, their designs pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible. Colonies in the Persei cluster became fortified bastions, their defenses bolstered by experimental technologies. At the same time, the Council began amassing its forces, preparing for what they believed would be a swift and decisive campaign to crush the rebellion. But humanity was not the same species they had once underestimated. They had learned, adapted, and grown stronger. The galaxy stood on the brink of a conflict that would change everything. The Council, entrenched in its arrogance, believed it still held the upper hand. But humanity, with its ingenuity, resilience, and growing network of allies, was about to prove them wrong. The storm was coming, and humanity was ready to face it.